So welcome to a brand new video for the JohnJusticeOnline.com website. So what is this? What was it? What is it going to be? Well, it was a website built around the idea of me possibly running for CD8. Of course, after we redraw the district lines, it may not look like CD8, or it may even be called something else. Now look, the reality is, I wanted to see, for myself personally, what it would feel like to consider a run for an elected position. It's obviously a lot different than working as a talk show host. They have similarities in terms of going out and speaking with people, talking about the issues, people's concerns about what's happening in southern Arizona and the country as well. And I kind of wanted to get a gauge and a feeling about what that was like, because it's something that I've never been a part of before. At the same time, it was also a means to potentially draw out some irrational criticism by individuals who think that it's inappropriate for anybody to even consider running for the CD8 seat against Congresswoman Giffords. So look, the reality is, more than likely, probably not is my answer as far as running for CD8. Just being honest with you. I love being a radio talk show host, and while the circumstances would certainly lay out appropriately via the timeline to where I could consider a run based on my contract for the radio station, and I would have a heads up on a lot of other individuals considering a run just because of my name recognition and people that know me, I like being a talk show host, I do. And other individuals have stepped up and are now taking that irrational criticism, people like Arizona State Senator Frank Antinori, who have launched an exploratory committee considering a run, and more than likely I believe that he will once we kind of get a better idea of what the redistricting lines will be. By the way, if you're wondering what that noise is, I think my Melinda is vacuuming in the background. So with all that being said, what becomes of this website and my final decision is kind of up in the air. I named it John Justice Online for a reason. I wanted to be able to use it later on, so potentially you'll see this site shifting to more of a show site down the road. I've got some larger goals in terms of my career, which this will serve very well in that sense. Until then, I plan on using the site to put up videos like this to talk about the election, particularly CD8 or wherever becomes of it, because that's where I belong. The point that I wanted to make, though, is... let me back up a little bit. Let me start off with this, because there was another reason why I wanted to shoot this video today. January 8th was chaotic from the get-go. In terms of the shooter, Jared Loughner, we're hearing now that he's going to be forced back on his medication, because without it, the guy's just a mental mess. To the actual event that took place, obviously a lot of chaos and tragedy took place that resulted in the deaths of those individuals, the injuring the others, and the shooting of Congresswoman Giffords. The events that unfolded afterwards in terms of the way the media handled it. Clarence Dupnick, that was chaotic. The city itself didn't really know how to feel about all of it. Unfortunately, it kind of continues to be confusing and chaotic. Look, there's no doubt that Congresswoman Giffords is recovering beyond, via the extent of these wounds, beyond what many of us would have imagined she would have recovered to, and that is absolutely miraculous, and by the grace of God, the woman is still alive and recovering, to the point where she can go and cast a vote in Washington on raising the debt ceiling. But within all that comes a lot of confusion, because people would like to know, including myself, and I've mentioned this in a previous video, how is this going to work from here on out? Is she going to continue to go when Congress gets back in session and vote on things, and then go back and continue her recovery? Is she going to run? What is her mental capacity? What isn't? And as I've said on the show many times, to a certain extent, that's really nobody's business, except for the fact that the Congresswoman Giffords campaign and other individuals have made it everybody's business. If she had just gone and just done her recovery and asked to be left alone, that would have been one thing, but she didn't. She went out and she cast a vote. And I think the individuals who she is representing in the district, you know, have at this point, because they've created this scenario, a right to know whether or not she is going to run or how long this recovery is going to be. At the same time, you have chaos in terms of the Democratic Party not knowing what to do. Individuals, Democrats stepping up, who are getting vilified and demonized, saying, how could you possibly consider running against Giffords? Well, everybody's got a right to. And the same thing goes to Arizona State Senator Frank Antinori, who just launched an exploratory committee, and the irrational attacks that have been made upon him, the names that are being called, that he's being called in the lefty blogs, completely unsubstantiated, unwarranted, words that I haven't even heard Frank use, for crying out loud. It's all been very chaotic and confusing. The point to all this is this, and that is, look, you have to decide how it is you are going to look at what's going on with Congresswoman Giffords. You have to decide what's appropriate and what isn't appropriate. And then you have to base your decisions certainly off who you support around that. I mean, it comes back to that personal responsibility again. Everyone's entitled to their opinions, and that's their right, just as much as I'm entitled to give my opinion on here. Personally, my opinion is they've had Congresswoman Giffords out in the spotlight. And because of that, I think the public deserves to know whether or not she's going to come back and run, how far she has recovered in terms of her mental capacity to do her job. If it had to been for her casting that vote, I wouldn't be saying that, but she did. And there's a lot of confusion going on right now. Ron Barber is in Hollywood saying she's going to return to Congress soon, while media reports are saying that she made phone calls after just now finding out the entire details of what happened on January 8th. And that the individuals that she called to offer her condolences to said that she still has a hard time forming words. Well, which is it? Does she have a hard time forming words? Or is she returning to Congress soon? And it's okay to ask those questions. You know, and this is where it gets even more chaotic. And people think, oh, it's inappropriate, she's recovering. You're right. She did have to deal with an absolutely horrendous act of violence that I don't wish upon anybody, regardless of your political affiliation. But this is an election, and this is we're heading into an election season, and it's an important seat. And right now we've got a lot of problems in this country, and people want some representation. They'd like to know where individuals that are serving in elected positions are going to be down the road and who they're going to throw their support behind. It's all okay to ask those questions, and don't let anybody ever tell you different in that regard. It's that personal responsibility, again, that we all need to wrap our arms around and own. You know, I really like the thought, getting back to the original, my original comments, I like the thought of potentially being able to go and represent individuals. You can really make a difference. You know, ultimately I'm an entertainer, and I've always admitted that. My goal is to have success, and hopefully people will like what I have to say on the air. There is that part of me that likes to see change and wants to see change and sees the show as a catalyst to do that, but I'm no crusader. That I leave that up to the elected officials. I guess in my mind, when I hit the point where I start using the show as a platform to say I'm going to make a bunch of change and I'm going to use the show for this, I think that's the point where I go, well, if I really want to do that, I need to kind of get away from the microphone and get in a position where I can actually go and affect real change and represent individuals, not just get behind a microphone and blabber on trying to make change, if that makes sense. So, the site will remain as it is for right now. We'll see what happens in the future. I do congratulate Frank Antinori for stepping in with this exploratory campaign. I know some other individuals are going to be stepping up soon, and that needs to happen. People have to step up for this seat, and life has to go on. And I think ultimately that's going to be what's going to prompt the Giffords campaign to make a decision on their end when people stop thinking about this in terms of emotions and feelings and think about it in a very pragmatic sort of way and go, well, the election's coming up and life goes on. Thanks for watching. Thanks for your support and those that have come to the website and liked it. And of course, thanks for those that listen to the show as well. Bye.